What's going on, everybody? C4 here, and welcome to today's video. As we are in draft week, 3 days and change away, I kind of want to feel like I owe one to the Philadelphia Eagles fan base because we did the 32-team mock draft series, which I focused on every team, but everyone knows at the end of the day, I represent the Eagles. And what I'm going to try to do here today is give you guys the ultimate Philadelphia Eagles draft guide. I'm going to go through position by position and tell you if Philadelphia is going to get a player at a certain position, where they should get it, where the best value is going to be, and ultimately kind of give you an idea of, what prospects I think we should all be satisfied with if Philadelphia selects them, say, at pick 25 in the first round, or potential targets that we should be really, really pumped up about if we select them with either of our second round picks, so on and so forth throughout the draft. And I also will give you guys a couple undrafted free agents that you should kind of take note of. But ultimately, for Eagle fans, kind of make this as a guide if you want to start looking at some of the players that I've mentioned here today. Look at their cut-ups, look at their highlights on YouTube. It'd probably be pretty beneficial. Now, I'm re-recording this because the first time I did this video, it was literally 32 minutes long. And while that's great for ad revenue, I don't really want that video presented in such a way. I want it to be digestible to you guys. So if I am a little bit vague in describing some of the prospects, just trust me and go look at their tape if you really want to dive in. So starting right away with the quarterbacks, I think Philadelphia will be looking for a third quarterback / practice squad quarterback. We did bring in Luis Perez from the AAF. I think more so he's just a camp arm. So I think we ultimately won't be investing one of our draft picks in a quarterback, but I think more so undrafted free agents will be the look. And I have 3 names here that I would keep an eye on that fit the mold of a Doug Peterson quarterback. He wants that big, long, 6'5", 6'4 plus, 220 plus type quarterback. So we got Kyle Shermer from Vanderbilt, Taylor Cornelius from Oklahoma State, and I'm going with a little bit of a dark horse here, Amir Hall from Bowie State. I think there's a fairly good chance all 3 of these quarterbacks go undrafted. They fit the mold. They all have relatively some upside to land on as a third quarterback. But I think personally right now at the Eagles, we're going to go Carson Wentz and Nate Studfeld, and then we'll probably have a QB stashed on the practice squad. Moving to the running backs, we kind of need another member for a running back by committee. And if we're not going for a guy that has that potential to be that 3-down bell cow, which I don't know why we necessarily would need that, but you always want them on their roster, I think we need to add speed. We have Corey Clement receiving back, Jordan Howard power back. Then you just got a collection of Wendell Smallwood, Josh Adams. Is Darren Sproles coming back? None of those guys really do bring game-breaking speed, so that is something that I considered when I was making this list. So let's talk about Mr. Josh Jacobs. I've never been on board with him being Philadelphia's pick in the first round, but even with Jordan Howard, I think if he's still available there in the second round, we need to view Jordan Howard as a rental at this point. Gave up a 6th-round pick. Even if he does ball out, I wouldn't be so sure that Philly's going to want to pay him. I feel like how he has our salary cap and just roster in general structured, we are not going to be overpaying for a running back. I feel like he has that $3 million hit a year limit on a running back, and we're going to have Carson Wentz's big contract coming up. So it's going to be a position that we're continually going to look for bargains and rentals. So I don't really think Jordan Howard is going to be a long-term option here for the Eagles. I'm excited to see what he brings next year, but getting a guy like Josh Jacobs in the second round, he's regarded as the best running back in this year's draft class. He could do it all. Not a burner, which he doesn't really fit what we're looking for in a committee. But in terms of upside, I feel like in the second round, we get that affordable, hopefully elite running back or good running back, 1,000-yard capable running back on a rookie deal for the next 3 to 4 years. So I feel like that value, I wouldn't rule Josh Jacobs out in the second round, and actually would be pretty satisfied if we still drafted him in the second round. Moving to day 3, though, that's where I most likely think Philadelphia will look at bringing in another running back. So day 3 is rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7. We will start with Rodney Anderson from Oklahoma, the often injured, but I think if he didn't have the injury tag, he would be regarded as one of the best running backs in this year's draft class, if not the best. So I feel like if he's still there in the 4th, 5th round, why not? Why not take your shot? I think it's worth the gamble, just because of the upside is so high there for Rodney Anderson. But then beyond that, he's not really a burner. So then just trying to find more so niche guys that fit the fact that we need a speedster at running back. I'm not going to mention Justice Hill because I think Justice Hill from Oklahoma State had an outstanding combine. He'll be gone in the 3rd round where you don't really have a pick. So then we got to kind of look at the second-tier speed options. We got Karan Higdon from Michigan. I think Philly has actually showed some interest in him this offseason. Travis Homer from Miami. I think he'll be a little bit later of a pick. And then we got Bryce Love. Bryce Love from Stanford. I think that is a name, for whatever reason, I just think it makes sense to the Eagles. Now, we tore his ACL late. Coming off a terrible year for Stanford last year. But you can't ignore 2 years ago at Stanford, where he was the most electrifying player in college football. And there's a legitimate shot that Bryce Love could have had the fastest 40-yard dash time if he was 100% healthy at the combine, and would have a bunch of teams just rethinking and going, oh yeah, you know, this guy here actually is really, really good. But now that pretty much everything surrounding Bryce Love is coming off a terrible year for Stanford, and now he's injured, now he's hurt, and we don't know what his availability is going to be. He probably most likely will start in the PUP, might be able to get in the second half of the season. His value is at an all-time low, and I think that could be a spot the Philadelphia Eagles could pounce on him real late, bring him in, and get a lot of production, because he also kind of fits what we're looking for our committee. Jordan Howard is a thumper, Corey Clement is receiving back, then you throw in a guy like Bryce Love in the back end of the season that brings that game-breaking speed. Sounds pretty good to me. And then looking at it as an undrafted free agent, we've had a good history getting UDFAs. Josh Adams last year from Notre Dame, Corey Clement from Wisconsin. So I'm looking at Bruce Anderson from North Dakota State. Didn't have the greatest of pro days. I think because of his pro days solidified himself as an undrafted free agent, but tape looks really good. Versatile running back. I'd love to bring him in for camp and see what he can do in the preseason. Going to the fullbacks, I feel like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's my old school mentality. Maybe when I played football, I always wanted a fullback lead blocking for me. Doug Peterson has had fullbacks in Kansas City. He had Anthony Sherman, one of the better fullbacks in the league. Some of the playoff teams this year that went deep all utilize fullbacks, so I'm not going to completely rule it out, but I will say we're not going to invest a pick, because you have Alec Ingold, I think, from Wisconsin. He'll be intriguing for the Eagles, but he's probably going to go, 5th, 6th round. I don't think I'd invest a pick like that in a fullback. But here's one just from the pro day roundups. Trayon Gray from Miami, 6'2", 240 pounds, he's like a fullback running back hybrid, ran a 4.37 at his pro day. Just throwing that out there, could be an interesting athlete to bring on the roster. Moving to the wide receiver position, we will talk quickly about just first rounds wide receivers, guys we could look at pick 25. DK Metcalf and N'Keal Harry, those are two bona fide first round wide receivers. While we did bring in Deshaun Jackson, we don't know how long we're going to have Deshaun Jackson. We run 12-man sets, which means a lot more Dallas Goedert and Zach Ertz on the field. You're probably not always going to want a guy like Deshaun Jackson as the other wide receiver opposed to Alshon Jeffrey. So a guy like DK Metcalf, N'Keal Harry can be groomed to be that wide receiver. So I wouldn't be upset with that pick at 25. But then looking beyond those bona fide first-round talents into day 2 and day 3, I think we should just solely target speed. Deshaun Jackson, kind of like Jordan Howard, we can't really assume he's going to be much value to the team beyond this upcoming season. So I'm looking day 2, Hollywood Brown from Oklahoma, Hakeem Butler from Iowa State, Andy Isabella from UMass, or A.J. Brown, if he slips out of the first round, from Ole Miss. All those guys offer some intriguing options. Hollywood Brown, Hakeem Butler, and Andy Isabella. Hakeem Butler's kind of 6'6", height, weight, speed freak, but they all bring speed. They all bring game-breaking speed that I think would be welcome to our team. When you look at someone like A.J. Brown, that's more so, and I guess even Andy Isabella to an extent, Nelson Aguilar's in the last year of his deal. We don't know if there's going to be a long-term deal for Nelson Aguilar. Well, I hope we're going to run a lot more 12-man. You still need that slot wide receiver. So I think a guy like Andy Isabella or A.J. Brown could be looking to take over that Nelson Aguilar role going into 2020 and beyond. Then going to day 3 wide receivers, again, sticking with speed. McCole Hardman from Georgia, Terry McLaurin from Ohio State, and Darius Slayton from Auburn. All those guys bring a lot of speed to their game. And then looking maybe more so at an undrafted free agent, Scott Miller from Bowling Green. Ran a really fast time at his pro day. Had some good productions coming off a big year at Bowling Green, so would be a guy to take a little look at. Moving to tight ends, we could be looking for a third tight end to compete with Richard Rodgers, or just in general a practice squad tight end. So I'm looking only solely at undrafted free agents, and just here's some names. Andrew Beck from Texas, Caleb Wilson from UCLA, who I think his dad is a coach on the Philadelphia Eagles staff, or used to be at some point. And then Donald Parham from Stetson. Get a lot of that MoMA. Remember you said that MoMA guy from UMass? He's like 6'8", wide receiver, tight end hybrid. Why not? Just a practice squad guy. All right, moving to offensive tackle. So are we going to find Jason Peters' replacement? What's going on with Jordan Mailata? Tackle is it's a weird position for the Philadelphia Eagles because I have no idea how they really regard Jordan Mailata. So I'm just going to throw out some names here. In the first round at pick 25, I'd be very happy with Cody Ford. Cody Ford brings tackle guard ability. I think his versatility would be key. He'd see the field immediately as a rookie. And him, along with, a player we'll talk about, him and Christian Wilkins are like the two most Philadelphia Eagle picks ever that could potentially be made at pick 25. So I'd be very happy for Cody Ford. There's, decent, all right chance he still could be available, but I wouldn't get my hopes up. Going into day 2, so second or third round, Yanni Kajust from West Virginia seems like really the only tackle, I think, out of the next group, like the tier 2 of tackles that really do fit what the Philadelphia Eagles want. Going into day 3, Bobby Evans from Oklahoma, Max Sharping from Northern Illinois, and Titus Howard from Alabama State. I think Philly actually showed some interest in Titus Howard this offseason, so those would be 3 tackles I would keep an eye on. And then looking for undrafted free agents, Yosua Nyemyan. We'll go with that. From Virginia Tech, he is like a 6'7", 330-pound tight end, ran a 4.83, tested out the charts at his pro day. Again, I literally couldn't even find a tape chop up of him, so I can't regard to his blocking ability, but he seems like that Jordan Mailata. Wow, what an athlete. And he actually played tackle. He played some college ball, so if he does slip to undrafted free agency, wouldn't mind having him as just an athlete that we might be able to develop, stash on the practice squad type guy. Moving to the interior offensive line, we might want to start looking at Jason Kelsey's replacement, because he's kind of taking that year-by-year stance on is he going to retire, is he not going to retire. We could also use offensive guard depth, because we don't know when Brandon Brooks is going to be available this year, and we all know and understand that, there's some certain limitations to Mr. Ciamalo, who got a brand new contract, so I don't think he should just get the outright opportunity to start at guard. So looking here, we got first round at pick 25. Wouldn't be pissed off with a Garrett Bradbury pick. He's such a very, very good athlete. If he can play guard, if they feel comfortable that he can play guard and then eventually swing back into center, that could be a nice long-term pick. It might not feel amazing right now, Eagle fans, if we use our first-round selection on a guy that's not going to be able to play right away. But for how good of an athlete Garrett Bradbury is, I would be very happy with that long-term thinking. Into day 2, Alton Jenkins from Mississippi State. Another versatile guy. He's played everywhere on the line, and I kind of just view him more so as a better version of Isaac Ciamalo. Going into day 3, I got Alex Barrs from Notre Dame, Bo Benchwale from Wisconsin, Phil Haynes from Wake Forest, and Hjalte Frohold from Arkansas. I think Philly has shown interest in Frohold, so that's just something to keep an eye on. But all these guys kind of fit that Mahler mold, powerful type players that Doug Pearson likes for the interior of his offensive line. Looking at 2 potential undrafted free agents in the interior, we have George Asafo-Ajayi from Kentucky, tested very well at his combine. Same with Tanner Farmer, who is from Nebraska. Again, we're just kind of looking more so for nice athletes. That's pretty much what it comes down to for undrafted free agents, is you either get guys that had a lot of production in college that just for whatever reason didn't get drafted, or you go for the guys that might have had the best tape but had and shown great athletic traits in their pro day and this offseason workouts. Those are guys that you kind of want to stash on your practice squad. Moving to the defensive line, we'll start at D tackle. In the first round, we got Ed Oliver. I'm not going to lie, I would trade up to Ed Oliver. I don't know necessarily what I would give up to trade for Ed Oliver, but if you told me right now, pick 25, I need to see how the board is. That's kind of, it's hard to say, would I give up a first and a second to move up and get Ed Oliver? I need to see what the board is, because if a lot of prospects that I liked were already gone, and we're now in like the late teens, Ed Oliver's still there, you might want to jump ahead of like the Falcons, for example. As of right now, I would do it. I would trade pick 25 and one of those second-round picks. Just in general, not knowing how the board is, I probably would do it to get Ed Oliver. He is that damn good. He would look that good next to Fletcher Cox. You'd have Malik Jackson as a rotation. That is terrifying. Plus, Ed Oliver would be utilized all over the place. He'd be a defensive end, D-tackle. He'd play everywhere. But more realistic options at pick 25. Christian Wilkins and Dexter Lawrence, the 2 D-tackles from Clemson. I'd take them all day long at pick 25. Maybe less so Dexter Lawrence, because he is more of a run stuffer. I think his athletic ability, athletic profile, he can develop into being more than just a run stuffing nose tackle. But, if you're looking at what he would bring, he'd be that Timmy Jernigan, that stay-at-home run stuffer to Fletcher Cox. Because right now we got Malik Jackson, not known for stopping the run. Fletcher Cox played way better when Timmy Jernigan was in the lineup, because Jernigan would stay at home and affect the run so Fletcher can go after the quarterback. Right now, with Fletcher Cox and Malik Jackson, say those are 2 starting defensive tackles, those are, we're going to have Fletcher be a little bit more reliable in the run game. So I don't know how much I like that. I would more so like Fletcher Cox to be able to get after the quarterback and have that other partner in crime that's more so the stay-at-home option to fill your gaps, plug the gaps. That's not what Malik Jackson is. So a guy like Dexter Lawrence, I know he might not be getting a lot of talk right now at 25. He is exactly the kind of player I think we need on this defensive line. Same with Christian Wilkins. Christian Wilkins is not as much of a run stuffer like Dexter Lawrence, but still I think Christian Wilkinson right now is probably my ideal, realistic, it seems like it could happen pick for the Eagles right now. As I said when I was talking about Cody Ford, Christian Wilkins pretty much fits the exact profile that Howie Roseman wants to draft. You're really good. You have a lot of production, high character. bunch of years started for Clemson, won a lot of games. He's like the prototypical Philadelphia Eagle pick, and I'd be very happy with Christian Wilkins. Moving into day 2, we got 2 names here. Second round, Jerry Tillery from Notre Dame. I wouldn't be super upset if we got Jeffrey Simmons, who tore his ACL coming off really big year at Mississippi State. Has some off the field, but I'm just sick and tired of Philly using our high picks for players that are, projects, not going to play right away. And that's kind of in the mold of Jeffrey Simmons. Seems like Adam Schefter said on Twitter that if you get Jeffrey Simmons, he might be ready for a playoff push. So, yeah, I mean, he could be, but I more so want to impact playmaker right away. So, second round's not a bad spot to get him. I have still seen teams have Philadelphia getting Jeffrey Simmons at pick 25. No way, Jose. But in the second round, Jerry Tillery, Jeffrey Simmons would be nice options at D-tackle. Then going into day 3, I got Kalen Saunders from Western Illinois, Michael Dogby from Temple, and Albert Huggins from Clemson. Those would be 3 guys that I would be looking for. Saunders would probably be a 4th rounder, and then Dogby and Huggins would be more so utilized with one of our last picks in the draft. Going to defensive end, we're looking for a defensive end 4 or 5, depending on how you want to look at it. In the first round, potentially Cullen Ferrell could be in play from Clemson. Again, another player kind of similar to Christian Wilkins, fits the profile of what Philadelphia wants as a defensive end. I just don't really see them investing a pick in the first round at D-end, even though it's the strength of the class, because we have and re-signed Brandon Graham, because we're hoping that Derek Barnett is going to come back off that injury, bounce back right away, and be a big-time producer. Then you also got Josh Sweat, who we used a pretty big investment on. You want to see him take the next step, maybe, and hopefully Chris Long comes back. I mean, it's going to be a crowded defensive end, and if you're thinking long-term, it might make sense. I would just be kind of shocked if we get a D-end in the first round, but you can't be upset with a pick of Cullen Ferrell if they do decide to go down that path. But more so looking into day 2 and day 3, I think that's where we will be looking. Day 2, Chase Vinovich from Michigan, Ben Banogu from TCU, and Ja'Kai Polite, who is falling from earth right now. With bad pro day, bad interview, coming in kind of heavy. He went from being a top 15 pick to where's he going to go? But Howie Roseman, Florida Gator alum. I mean, if Ja'Kai Polite's still there in the second round, I would not be upset about that. That is an outstanding value pick. As a Gator fan, I saw what Ja'Kai Polite brings to a team. And, even though he's kind of tanked this offseason, the tape don't lie. He is still really, really good value. I'd be all over him if he's still there with our second round picks. I don't think it will be the case, though. Then going into day 3, Max Crosby from Eastern Michigan, Anthony Nelson from Iowa, Joe Jackson from Miami, and Austin Bryant from Clemson will be some nice developmental picks that I think Philly could take a look at with our 4th, 5th, or if we get more picks in the 6th and 7th round. Going to linebacker. Need a linebacker. No more Jordan Hicks. It's a position that is a big need, and as of right now, I'm recording this on the 9th of April. Philly hasn't brought in any free agents, so that's position's still up for grabs. In the first round, I mean, I want to say we could put Devin White there. There's just no way we're going to get him. But Devin Bush from Michigan still could be in play. We might have to trade up to get him a little bit, which I don't think we would do. And it's just uncharacteristic. Philly's never drafted a linebacker in the first round. I don't think they will, but I won't be upset with Devin Bush. He is a leader. He is sideline to sideline, a great athlete. He's the kind of player that I think fits what Philadelphia wants. And I've been a little bit disappointed that he hasn't been brought in for any private workouts or anything like that, because I think he should be getting a little bit more respect as a potential option at pick 25. Going to day 2, we got Mack Wilson from Alabama. He could be an interesting option. Had an all right pro day. Good coverage ability, brings a little bit what he is, kind of like the Jordan Hicks style of linebacker. So that could be in play. I'm more so thinking day 3, though, is where there's good value for a linebacker for the Eagles. And that's why I think Philly will look at bringing in a linebacker. So we got Voshawn Joseph, could potentially slip there from Florida. Jermaine Pratt, Bobby Okereke, Terrell Hanks. Those would be names that I think fit the style of linebacker that Philadelphia wants. And then looking at a couple undrafted free agents, we have Dedrick Young, Cameron Smith, and Khalil Hodge. I think those guys there, if they do slip to undrafted territory, I'd jump all over them. We'd bring them up right away and saying, hey, come in and compete, because we got some linebacker spots open. Moving into the secondary, I still hate when I see a mock draft out in Philadelphia still getting a corner in the first round. I don't think it's going to be in play. The only way I think corner would be an option is if one of the elite corners slips. So that means in the first round, if Greedy Williams or Byron Murphy are still there, and I probably wouldn't be really happy with Byron Murphy at 25, just because we're still waiting for the other Washington corner to pan out in Sidney Jones. But if Greedy Williams is still there at pick 25 when we get him, hey, by all means. But I think we'll maybe look at adding depth on day 3. For corner, not so much using pick 25, but just to entertain the thought. In day 2, second round, we could look at Amani Oruwariye from Penn State if he's still there. Philly showed some interest in him. I think they had a workout or a private meeting with him, so he's a nice corner. Kind of fits what Jim Schwartz wants to do. But more so in day 3, if we're looking for more depth, more competition to what we currently have. Lonnie Johnson Jr. from Kentucky, Isaiah Johnson from Houston. We got David Long from Michigan, Jamel Dean from Auburn. We need speed. Right now, between Jalen Mills, we got Sidney Jones, we got Darby's the only. Wait, out of all the corners on the roster, I'm not going to sit here and list them all off. Darby is the only guy that's fast, and we need speed. We need to add more speed to our secondary if we are going to address that position. So everyone I just mentioned on day 3 brings that speed. Looking at potential undrafted free agents, we got Chris Westry and Steven Denmark. These are 2 Who players that are just looking at the pro days, are athletic freaks. Give me more speed. That's all I want is speed. But looking for more technical corners, Brian Peavy from Iowa State or Iman Marshall from USC could be in play as UDFA's nice little corners. I like their tape. Going to the safeties. This is another potential popular pick for the Philadelphia Eagles at 25. I agree with it. I think thinking long-term, we needed another safety. And if they're just straight up not going to let Rasul Douglas or Jalen Mills play safety, we need one. So in the first round, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson from Florida. Philly has shown a lot of interest in him. I will pound the table all damn day. My pro comp for him was Malcolm Jenkins. Would you not want another Malcolm Jenkins on the roster? Would you not want a guy that's the next Malcolm Jenkins to take over for Malcolm Jenkins down the road? Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at pick 25 would be amazing. Going into day 2, Darnell Savage, Jonathan Abram, Nasir Adderley, Juan Thornhill. We're pretty much naming all the corners. That's not Deontay Thompson. I think I'd be happy with any of those guys in the second round. Going into day 3, I like Amani Hooker from Iowa or Will Harris from Boston College. And looking at a couple undrafted free agents, we're going more so with some athletes here. We have Chris Johnson, Jake Gervais, Robbie Grimsley, and Doyen Jibowu. Those are all guys that tested very well at their pro days and just add more speed to the secondary. Going to special teamers, don't need any special teamers. We got kicker, punter, and long snapper. So there you go, guys. That is the ultimate Philadelphia Eagles draft prep. I shaved off 3 minutes. Hey, I shaved off 3 minutes. I just hope at the end of the day this video was of some use, a nice resource to Philadelphia Eagle fans in particular. But I just wanted to talk Eagles football in some sort of a video as we are here in draft week. I will have, I think the plan is to, I don't know if I could do a full Eagles mock draft again, but I did just want to talk about all these prospects and kind of give you an idea of this. I guess this was technically an Eagles mock draft. You know what I'm saying? If you could put it all together, you could probably build a Philadelphia Eagles mock draft out of this. I feel like this is the best way to me to just talk about all these prospects. And hopefully, through all of Philadelphia's picks, we only draft guys that I talked about here in today's video. Thank you guys for watching. We're going to wrap it up here. As always, your first time stopping by, don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. Smash the like button if you enjoyed. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.